My name is Rodney Bergman. I am the Senior Vice President of Global Business Services at Celestica. Celestica is an electronics manufacturing services organization, for all intents and purposes providing end-to-end supply chain solutions, primarily for the electronics industry. I have the pleasure of being the Global Business Services leader and having overall responsibility for a team of roughly 1,500 people across the globe. We are structured in terms of a series of end-to-end processes, such as procure to pay, opportunity to cash and the like. And we have locations, GBS locations across the globe with some hubs in Asia. I think what's becoming very, very evident is shared services is changing. There is an evolution. We've seen the evolution for the last 20 years and the evolution continues. We saw the advent of shared services roughly 25 odd years ago, and in the first couple of decades it was very much focused around single function shared services to multifunction shared services to global business services. Global business services is not an end point, and in the same way as we've evolved from the single to the multi-function and now to global business services, the next evolution point is starting to become very, very apparent. Recognizing that much of the value was initially around taking cost out of the organization, moving work to low-cost geographies, and focusing on transaction processing. Today, we see the need for an evolved GBS or shared services organization, which is much more oriented around value, creation of value and insight for the internal customers, or as we in Celestica like to refer to them as clients, and making quite sure that we are leading based on a value proposition about adding value to the organization rather than taking out cost from the organization. That's becoming more and more evident in the discussions thus far. It's interesting. People like to think that there are lots of potential obstacles around RPA. My perspective is actually that there's a lot of receptivity towards RPA. In fact, you speak to C-suite executives and they are all looking to get on the current RPA journey, and they see there being many, many upsides for the organization beyond the RPA journey. Some organizations are fearful and some employees are fearful of the fact that there could be some job loss associated with embarking upon an RPA journey. My experience tells me otherwise. My experience tells me that many of the younger generation want to work with an organization that embraces technology and that maximizes the use of technology. And quite frankly, we have seen, for example, in places like China, where if you do not have a focus on technology, folks will actually regard your organization as irrelevant. So I think that is less of an obstacle and more of an opportunity. Yes, there may be some fear in some sectors of one stakeholder group, but overall there's a lot of receptivity. Where it gets very, very interesting is the speed at which organizations navigate the RPA journey. The pull for RPA services and the belief in RPA services was accompanied by a lot of hype in terms of what RPA could ultimately do for the organization. Some of it was true, not all of it was 100% accurate, but the ability to supply may not be as great as the demand that's actually being placed on RPA as a service for the organization. I think many organizations think that RPA is going to be the answer, the silver bullet if you like, that's going to be able to answer all their problems. I don't see it that way either. What I would call out is a bad process is a bad process, and wrapping around RPA on a bad process is not really helping. So I think the interesting aspect here is to really look at what is the order of events that needs to take place relative to the introduction of RPA. First and foremost, one wants to get the processes optimized, eliminate work, eliminate waste, and then you could put RPA on. RPA has its place, but it should not be seen as the answer or otherwise known as the panacea for issues with process, organizational issues. Another thing to call out around the optimization of RPA and the introduction of RPA into the organization is the governance process. How one actually goes about selecting the right processes and where one ultimately focuses. I believe that organizations need to crawl before they can walk, before they can run in the RPA space. The promise of RPA was so great, and some organizations decided to run very, very quickly, but they got the basics wrong. And the other thing that I think there's an opportunity around is making quite sure that everybody in the organization is actually embracing the concept of RPA. If you try run too quickly, you're leaving people behind. And so the walk, or the crawl, then the walk, and then the run is absolutely critical. For us, it's been about making sure that everybody has the initial exposure to RPA, that they understand RPA. We've made sure that each and every one of the teams that report into me, at least initially, dip their toe into the RPA space, understand the art of the possible relative to RPA, and then we can really be selective around which opportunities to go after. The key is that RPA should not be embedded in just one team. RPA needs to be a decentralized activity. It is not an IT effort, it's a business effort. And the expertise needs to be spread equally around the different teams. And most certainly, as we have established a center of excellence, which will ultimately enable those teams to be successful, there needs to be that two-way relationship between the center of excellence and the deployed teams who are doing the work. First and foremost, I would say go slow to go fast. If you want to embark upon a RPA journey, recognize that, as mentioned previously, you have to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. And laying the right groundwork early will help you be successful long term. That includes establishing the right center of excellence around this, building out the governance models appropriate for RPA, equipping the various leaders in your organization with an understanding of the art of possible around RPA, and ultimately dipping one's toe into initial RPA projects and letting it take on its life of its own. If you put the right foundation stones in place, the RPA journey will be successful. If you run to the end point too quickly, I believe one gets caught up in the wrong focus. Many organizations have made the mistake of using RPA to correct poor processes, to use RPA ultimately to replace existing functionality within the ERPs and other systems. Organizations need to recognize that RPA is another sort of arrow in its toolkit, and has got the ability to support automation in the organization, but it's just one other sort of tool in one's toolkit. RPA needs to solve business problems, and it needs to support the end outcomes of the organization. From my perspective, initial work that we did in our organization was a little bit too narrow. We focused on point solutions within processes. The opportunity is to actually look at end-to-end processes, focus on business outcomes, and look at RPA as part of a solution to enabling the right business outcomes for your organization.